So there we have it, E3 2017 is now over. Nintendo just had their very short but sweet conference. It was only 25 minutes long, but despite the fairly compressed length, they still had a lot to show us, and I was thankful for them for keeping it short and keeping it interesting. My name's Amata, and in this Red Gaming Tech video we're going to be taking a look at what Nintendo had to say for themselves. They kicked the things off with Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to be exact. Not really any gameplay on offer, unfortunately. It looks like more Xenoblade. I will say, however, that the dub for the main character is really dodgy. really dodgy. I mean, obviously, hopefully there'll be the option to change it to Japanese, but I wasn't overly keen on that. But that's not exactly going to be a deal breaker. It's just something I noticed in the trailer, like, oh no. They also showed a new Kirby game. It's simply going to be called Kirby, I think, and it's going to be out in 2018. A little more Kirby. Kirby is never really a series I've got along with. It's very, brightly coloured and sugary sweet. Not really my type of thing at all. I do like that sort of style of game, but just not Kirby. It's never really clicked with me. Nothing wrong with it per se. It's just not really been my thing. There was a very brief mention of Pokken Tournament Dx, but I do mean brief. They did take this time, however, to announce that there's going to be a core Pokemon RPG on the Switch. The game doesn't even have a name yet, and the rep from the Pokemon company, whose name is Tsunekazu Ishihara, he basically said that it's going to be at least a year before we see this game, which leads to some interesting questions, I think. Is this going to be a new Pokemon game? Is it going to be the long run of Pokemon Stars? It could be either, really, because just because it's being mentioned now doesn't mean it's only just being in development. But the fact that they literally had nothing to show kind of tells me that, it's very early, which kind of makes me think it is Pokemon Stars, because obviously they would still have to put a fair bit of work into that, but it wouldn't be a from scratch thing. Either way, I'm pumped to be seeing Pokemon come to the Switch finally. There's also going to be a new Yoshi game, which seems to be having some sort of paper-style mechanics where you sort of flip to the other side of the 2D plane and obviously use the environment to get to different places and obviously go to the other side where perhaps you can get around an obstacle, that sort of thing. That looks like more my thing than Kirby, to be honest. Side-scrollers, obviously, they're a dime a dozen nowadays, especially on Steam, but you still have a soft spot, words are hard, I think, for the classics that got you started on those side-scrolling platforms, and for a lot of people that was, of course, the Mario games. We saw a little bit of Fire Emblem Warriors, literally zero gameplay. We saw it's coming out in 2017. We saw a little bit of a look at some Zelda Dlc. They mainly focused on the first one, which is out at the end of the month on June the 30th. It's called the Master Trials. Obviously, there's going to be Master Mode. There's going to be new trials, new armor, and a Korok mask, which seems pretty cool. And the second one is not out until holiday and is called the Champion's Ballad. They took a second to say that all the characters in that particular piece of DLC, or the main sort of 4 champions that you see, are going to be available as Amiibo. And I'm like, don't start with me on Amiibo, Nintendo. I'll be here all day. So yeah, that was a bit like ugh moment from me, but I'm a curmudgeon sometimes, so see me. Unsurprisingly, we saw a little bit more of Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Obviously, we saw a decent chunk of gameplay during Ubisoft's conference, so what they had to show here wasn't really anything much. It was just, hey, here's some more of this game. It's coming out on August the 29th, so it's actually not that far away. I will admit, I'm tempted to get this one, because I love XCOM, and this looks like XCOM but for kids, but with that sort of weird Rabbids style of humour. I don't think you necessarily have to be a kid to enjoy that style of humour, and it looks like something a bit more light-hearted. And games can often be a bit grimdark and serious, and everything's brown and depressing and doom and grim and big muscles and so on. So I think it's nice every now and again just to play something that's fun. Have some fun with some bright colours, but obviously not Kirby bright. Anyway, we also saw a bit of a showing from Rocket League, and this is pretty awesome, I think. It's going to have cross-network play, which means, obviously, if you buy it on the Switch, you can play with literally any of the other people on any of the platforms. There's going to be a Switch-exclusive feature in the form of local wireless multiplayer, which I think is going to be pretty sweet. If you and a group of friends are, in the same room, you can all play Rocket League together, which is a pretty nice feature. Obviously, you wanted Switches, but, it's still a nice feature nonetheless. There's going to be a few exclusive customization options, like a Luigi hat and stuff like that. But other than that, it's just going to be the same old Rocket League. Now, we saw a extraordinarily brief, and I do mean literally not even more than just a title screen, but we did see Metroid Prime 4. It's in development, is all it said. That leads me to believe it's going to be like 2018, 2019 even, before we see that game. We did not even see a sliver of a trailer, not even pre-rendered. Literally just, here's the title, it exists, it's real, hype, basically. But they closed the show, and they are doing a treehouse on this particular game, unsurprisingly, Super Mario Odyssey. So we saw a decent amount of gameplay, actually. Even within the trailer itself, we saw little snippets that told us a little bit more about how it's actually going to play. And obviously, I called a little bit of the treehouse as well to kind of get a feel for how it would actually play in unedited, form. And there's some sections within the trailer where you kind of switch in perspectives, like he goes to sort of old school pixel Mario to go around like the side of a tower, that sort of thing. And definitely seems to be a bit sort of free with switching camera perspectives to suit what it is you're doing at the time. When you're wandering around the city, it's kind of like just behind your back, but perhaps in another section it's going to be just above you. And obviously you got the playing with the 3D and 2D with the tower bit that I already mentioned. But the main thing we learned, other than the release date, which I'll get to in a second, is that you can use your hat, which is called Cappy, because of course it is, to capture and possess enemies and objects. And in the trailer they showed you basically possessing a T-Rex, which is pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. But this gives you lots of mobility in actual gameplay as well. Say you're jumping and swinging on things like fire hydrants and jumping on other stuff to gain height and get to different points in the map and so on. And then obviously you can use your hat to then possess, say, certain electrical points where you can literally turn into electricity to get across a gap, or you can turn into other stuff. And you can kind of get what I mean. There's a lot of flexibility in mobility in this particular ability, where you kind of fluidly possess certain things as you go to traverse the city itself, and undoubtedly it's going to be used to solve puzzles and so on. We also got a release date, and it's actually earlier than I expected. It's actually going to be out a day after my birthday, ironically enough, 27th of October this year. And the name of the city is New Donk City. Surprisingly, there's not a million jokes about that already. So I'm just getting my nudge, nunk, wink, wink, don't say any more in while I can before it becomes a dead meme within 0.5 seconds. So that's pretty much it. As I said, it was very short, 25 minutes. They did not really have a lot, clearly, but what they did show, excuse me, just knocked something off there, was pretty cool. I have very few complaints. Obviously, a lot of it wasn't really interesting to me because, Nintendo have a wide variety of games, but there was a lot there interesting to me, and the Switch is looking like a pretty good value proposition these days, I have to say. Pokken Tournament Dx, awesome. A core Pokemon game, hell yes. Metroid Prime, Yoshi, obviously Zelda already. Mario Rabbids looks fun. Mario Odyssey, I'm still like, this seems a bit weird, even for Mario, but, I'll probably play it, or at least Paul might play it, or something, because I need to see what's going on with that game. It just looks so strange, even compared to where Mario's been going over the last few years. So, yeah, a short but sweet one, but I think it was a well-presented package, and given that it was a digital stream thing again, it was obviously no fluff at all, so no complaints from me regarding that. So, that's it for E3. Paul and I will be back sometime this week, hopefully tomorrow, maybe Thursday. I don't want to make promises on the day, to do a podcast on our thoughts on the whole conference, and obviously to discuss the rather tired but necessary topic of who won E3 this year. So, let the speculation and discussion commence. I suppose we have seen all the conferences, we've seen what everyone's had to offer, and there's a lot of good contenders this year, I think. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.